Rigo is on vacation, but that doesn't mean that the show is going to stop today. As a matter of fact, I'm bringing in a friend of mine and Michael, and we are going to talk about female leadership and winning your way. This is definitely going to be an episode that you definitely want to watch, and you're probably going to even come back and rewatch. So make sure you grab some pen, paper, your laptop, whatever it is that you like to take notes on, and let's get started. Let's roll the intro. Hey, everybody, here. Oh, there's an echo on my end. Whoops, I hope everybody can't hear that. Anyways, Rigo's on vacation. He took a family vacation that he claims he hasn't been on a family vacation in years. And just because he's not here, we're going to talk about females leadership, women in leadership roles, and what it takes, and how do we define what success is. And I have brought in my very good friend Michael Kithcart. And so, Michael, why don't you just introduce yourself, real casual, just let the audience know who you are.
Well, hi, Laurie-Ann. This is going to be such a fun conversation. I love the intro before anybody can see the photo, and it's like Michael's going to talk about women in leadership. And I love that, because if I was hearing that, I would initially think, why is a guy going to talk to me about women? So now the joke is, everybody's in on the joke. But hi, I am a high performance coach. I'm a speaker, and I'm the creator of the Wynning Your Way Method, which we will talk about today. And I have had roles in corporate America for decades. I've been in sales leadership, also did a stint in nonprofit that was an organization that helped women start and run businesses. And I am an entrepreneur. I work with women. I work with men who work with women. Everywhere you go, we're talking about women and women in leadership in lots of different ways, shapes, and forms.
So you got a shit ton of experience, is what you're trying to say.
Oh, Laurie-Ann,
Wait. Just because old doesn't, we're going for quality over quantity, because you really can have quality experience, and not have the experience, over the course of time, but you've been put in so many different situations, and your clients are also in so many different situations that gives you that quality. So we're not going to talk about that. Let's see. We're just going to keep talking about leadership here, and I'm going to be talking about, because I've got some experience myself, in coaching women. And one of the things that I know for sure, and there are so many different reasons why this actually happens, but I was looking up some stats beforehand, and women currently, according to a stat that was published this last April, women hold 35%, only 35% of senior leadership roles, while men actually hold 65% of them. And there's a variety of different reasons why I think that is. And we're not going to go into all of them, but I know that it is something that's been very near and dear to my heart, because women just lead differently. Women show up as leaders differently. Women network differently, and that's neither right nor wrong. It's just the way that it is. Let me just shut that beep off. But I'm really curious, if you're watching this live, just let me know that you are here live today. And if you like put like the hashtag live, and if you are watching the replay, then hit the like hashtag replay later on. And if you have any questions like while we're doing the show, like please like feel free to just type them in and we'll be sure to also get them. But I also want to say hello to my friend Gail who is watching this, and I know that she's got a lot of leadership. She's got a very interesting career path as well. Her and I have had lots of discussions, about leadership and about her particular pathway. But one of the things that I do want to talk about, and we're going to bring Michael back on. There she is. Michael, like I would just like to, what I was mentioning was that like women and men just lead differently. What's been your experience with that as well?
So I would like to, yes, they do. And they do because they are different human beings. Like, right. Just like Ed leads differently than Matt does, so does Diane and Sue. And I get a little like, this gets in my craw a little bit because there's been lots of studies done and a lot of different professional development. Thought leaders will talk about the soft characteristics and the that are important to leadership, and that they tend to be female based, and then the more maybe assertive or aggressive ones are more male features of leadership. And I just think that is a total crock of crap. I'm remembering that we're live.
And it's okay. But I love how what you're saying is that like it's neither good nor bad. It's just the way that it is.
Yes. And well, I want to get away from that. Yes, but women do lead differently. It's like, okay, but there's some things to take into consideration. Depending on how long you've been a leader, some women will say, I've been told that I've been intimidating or I'm aggressive, but the role models that they had to model their leadership style were all men. And it got them success, self-included. I've been told that I'm intimidating and intense and all of that. Some of it I really like. Some of it is what has helped me have success. Some of it I'm really okay with. But some people would not characterize my leadership style, for example, as being female-like. And I don't care. And I worked with women to help them get okay with it too. Like, let's develop your own style.
100%. Every time I took on a new executive leadership client, that is one of the first things I would ever say to them. Like, we have to define what your style is. Don't let somebody else dictate what your style is going to be. Like, lead your own way. I would like to stop looking above. Like, hey, that's what got them there. That's probably what I should do. It's just like, you're a unique person. You just show up in the world differently. Like, let's decide. And I literally would make them come up with either 3 words, 3 short phrases. Like, here's your style. Let's use this style as a lens for who you're going to become.
Yes. I help people create their leadership philosophy. And in that, that would include some words that would describe them, but really to have people think about what is it like, what are those foundational ways that you are going to lead from? And that helps people break out of kind of this, I should lead like this, or I have to be like this other leader. Other leaders have thought that that's been really freeing for them and thought-provoking.
Interesting, really. And I do think when people like you and I, like when we're coaching them and we share this with them, they're just like, oh, really? I mean, I can do it my own way.
Permission.
Permission to be you, because then you get to show up as more of your authentic self. And even if that means like making some mistakes along the way, but at least you're making those mistakes, and it wasn't because you were trying to act like somebody else.
Yes, exactly. And people pick up on it, right? When you think about one of the key things about leadership is having that ability to influence and persuade and have people want to follow you and do things, with and for you. And if you are not presenting your true self to them, people pick up on that and they don't want any part of it.
Yeah, it almost like repels people.
Mhm.
It just really pushes people away. And you're very big in the sales leadership. And so it's sales. I mean, it's just really going to push, why aren't you making the sale? Well, because you're trying to be somebody else
Right.
instead of being yourself. I want to go back to that confidence, and being intimidating. So during my time, I was actually did some leadership development for Johnson and Johnson, and I remember this woman executive, and I loved how she said that she knew that she came across as confident. She knew that she was intimidating, but she said for every quality that she had, like for confidence, for example, she said it's a two-sided penny. Some people react really well to that confidence. She said, and then the flip side is it would scare the shit out of some people, really intimidate them. So she said, as her job as a leader was to know the difference. When was it okay for her to show up like really confident? Where did she need to soften that so that she didn't, and these were her words, she said she didn't blow people away. She literally would keep track of this. She said it was almost like putting like a penny or something into a jar, and she'd be like, and that way that at the end of the day she would look at it and be like, yeah, okay, like I got something to like work on tomorrow.
Mm.
So I've always remembered that like all of our qualities, I think, are there's just two sides to them. What do you think? You're kind of like shaking your head a little bit there.
Yes, I think I'll wrestle with this for my entire life, right? Is that I would say there's that penny is two-sided, and then there's also at least always two people involved. And so there's that confidence
Right,
piece.
right.
And if the other person is not confident and they let their own insecurities show up and they project that on the other individual, that can erode confidence. And so I think the art form and the challenge is to be able to distinguish where is it that what is it that's about you and what you can control, and what is it that's actually about the other person. And in leadership, like, you don't want people to feel insecure. You can help them grow and develop and gain more of their own confidence. Let's just not have it be at your own expense.
I I love that.
Taming
Yeah.
down confidence.
So, what is some of the advice that you would give either a new or even seasoned leader about exactly what you just said? It's about the other person sometimes, and it's not really about you. Because you're right, like we can't own everything.
Right. What what I do with either new leaders or seasoned leaders is there's always this opportunity for that continuous improvement and self-awareness, right? And the more you actually take the time to know yourself better and to amplify that self-awareness, the more you're able to have an awareness of others and what their personality styles are, how they're similar to yours, how they differ. And a lot of times I'm working with leaders, helping them navigate different personalities, right? Because if we're just hiring or working with people that are just like us, it can really create a dull and lackluster environment, culture, and plus you're just not innovating in a way that
Well,
you could.
well, I got to tell you, Michael, if I had to work with a bunch of people like me, I don't think I would enjoy working with a bunch of people like me. If I was totally honest, I wouldn't. I like that variety of people.
Yes, well, some of it, we could get into the unconscious biases and those kinds of things. But going back to that that awareness of like, what part do you own and what part is about others. In leadership, sometimes you have to sidestep that. Like, you can acknowledge to yourself that, look, I'm not going to take this on. I'm not going to take what this other person is trying to put on me. And then the opportunity is to help the other person see it in themselves too, and to get them to see that they maybe have their own insecurities, or that they are comparing themselves to others, and that is getting in the way of their ability to be their own version of themselves, best selves and stuff. So there's like this subtle nuance that happens in leadership, and people are constantly doing it. The most effective leaders are constantly doing it.
And is there like a specific tool or exercise that you give people to start learning this, that you could like share with the audience that's listening and watching right now?
Sure. So there, there's lots of assessments that one can take, and in the corporate world, we'll administer lots of them. Let's just remember that all of them are just tools, and they give you some information, and you can decide what to do about it. So some people have been exposed to, Strengths Finders, Myers-Briggs, the Hogan Suite for Leadership, DISC, Kobe. Like, those are all different personality assessments that will help give language to your personality and behaviors in different ways. In absence of all of that, ask people. Ask the people that, ask your team, ask them for feedback, ask the people that you're closest to you. How would you describe me? What's it like to deal with me when you think that I'm upset, when you think that I'm in a great mood? Is there a lot of discrepancy between the two? And again, there has to be some trust there to be able to ask those kind of questions. But asking for feedback about yourself and like how you can be even better is a great way to build on some initial trust and to get insight that maybe you don't have on your own.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I do think that you have to have that established trust. And almost like as a leader, when you're trying to get that sort of feedback from the people that you are leading, to be able to let them know, like, I'm looking for feedback. You don't have to be like, oh, no, you're a great leader, because I think that can happen is that people are like, what's the answer that you want?
Right.
That you want to hear instead of getting that honest feedback.
Yeah.
So I think, we have to set up those meetings.
Yes, absolutely. And, and what's the purpose of it? And it requires some vulnerability on your end as a leader, is to say, like, no, I'm working on becoming a more effective leader. I want to up my game. And I realize that I have some blind spots, because guess what, guys? We all have them. We all have blind spots, and we all have gaps between what we think we're doing and the way people actually experience us. So this is a way to break from that. So if you just position it, and then an easy way to kind of like inch into it is ask them for 3 things that they think that you're doing well, and then what are 3 things that you could work on. And then the challenge of you as a leader is to not take all of that and dissect it. It's to look for themes, right? If one person says something about you, but nobody else does, like, take that information and put it in the interesting column. What you really want to do with the feedback is actually find themes that will give you an indicator of what you do well and what you could work on.
I like that, just to like look at the themes. Now, do you also recommend, like, besides the people getting the feedback from the people that your clients are leading, but what about, people that are like of equal levels, that you're probably interacting with them from other departments, so to speak, and you're in similar meetings with these other people working on the same goals? What are your thoughts about getting feedback from basically lateral?
Oh, absolutely. And so this gets you into a 360 assessment.
Mhm.
So some people have gone through it where people get interviewed. Sometimes it's by survey only. So this might sound familiar to some of you. But yes, the value is getting a, a well-rounded feedback loop
Mhm.
from people, your peers, the people that work on your team, people that maybe you have interaction with on a regular basis, but there's not a direct line either way of reporting. So all of that is extremely valuable.
Yeah, and I would also stress, like, if you're going to apply this and do your own, it's basically your own 360, where you're sensing your own themes, is not just to pick it's not just to pick the people that you like or that you think that are going to give you the best answers. It's really to have that variety of people that are around you.
Yes, and I would add too, if this is something that you are doing in your work environment, because you can also do this personally, and maybe for some people that feels a little more comfortable to start that way. But if you're doing this in a work setting, you're actively asking for feedback, you have a responsibility to then tell people what are you going to do with it. And what did you learn from it? And as a result, here are some of the changes that you're going to be making. Just to collect all that and never do anything with it can be really damaging, actually. So you have to be willing to do something about the information you get.
I'm so glad that you said that, because like when I was coaching leaders, it's exactly what I would tell them. Like, now I want you to send everybody who participated in your 360. And in that case, like, it was a very computerized, generated assessment. But was to just thank you so much for your time, because I mean that's not a quick assessment, but anybody who's willing to give you your feedback, I mean, that's just positive reinforcement, knowing that, oh, my boss just asked me for my feedback on their leadership. I gave it to them. I like went out on a limb, was honest, and this is what she gave me back. She or he like gave me back, saying this is what they're going to do different. And
Yeah,
that way, like, the next time they're being asked, because I want to like see how I'm doing with all of this, with all the feedback and like my own personal leadership development plan.
yeah,
Yeah, that
absolutely.
I love that. So what are some of the areas that you have seen that were like common areas in leaders that they needed to actually work on?
Oh, okay. Communication always. Even
Yes.
those who think that they are effective communicators, there's always an opportunity to communicate more clearly, to be able to connect dots. Because let's remember, as leaders, you typically have more information than the people that are reporting to you or even across the organization. So there's always an opportunity to do that. Um, Storytelling, becoming a better storyteller. I was just working with an executive this morning who was getting ready to be part of an all company meeting, and we were just shredding how they were going to be telling the story. It's like, nope, right to the point. And what are the learning pieces? And cut that story in half. And it takes practice, right? So these are the things that really consistently I see are areas of opportunity for leaders, and I would have to say across the board, courage. Having the courage to be able to have the difficult conversations, to really step up. Sometimes it's to be bold and to share the vision that you see, but so often leaders get into predicaments because they're not willing to have difficult conversations earlier.
I always said that it's really easy to lead when things are going well, but you, as a leader, you get tested when there are challenging times, when there's somebody that you actually have to basically, like, remove from the team, like, for their own good, for the good of the department, of the company. And some, like, exactly, like, having difficult conversations is something else that I've noticed was also difficult. Was also a common theme, I should say. But I also saw, and I also love the fact that you brought up storytelling. I
I
had not thought about storytelling, but you're right, because people, like, and you know me, like I'm a speaker. So as a speaker, we tell stories. And it's because we want the audience to see themselves in the story. So in leadership, with those leadership stories, the people who you're leading, or even customers and clients and other departments, like, just be able to see themselves in that story. So that's a great leadership quality. But one that I would see a lot of, and I'm curious what your take is on this, was actually about strategy and vision. That was an area that I would see a lot, on assessments where it was like their scores would just dip down. And I always thought of it as something, because they're so sometimes focused on the here and now and putting out fires, that it's hard to think about where we're going to be down the road.
And I work with leaders on this a lot, especially the higher, if you're getting into like an SVP and then they go into the C-suite, and the executive level is that the vision in work is as important as anything else. And they have to, just like whether you're entrepreneurs all the time have to, like, you have to work on the business, not just in the business, but it's the same even in, a corporate environment, or, even just in an organization. And people struggle with this because it's so clear in their mind, or there's lack of vision and strategy at the very, very top. But they don't intuitively often see their role as one that constantly, consistently need to share the vision and the key strategy, the why. Why are we doing this? Connecting what you're asking of others back to the strategy and the greater vision. Yes. Can you tell us some time on that?
Yeah, I can, just a little bit. But I've also said, like, you should be communicating that vision so much that your team can actually mimic you.
Yes. Until you hear it repeated back, until everybody in your organization can actually, if I walked around and said, what's the vision of the company, until everybody can say it, you haven't said it enough.
Right. And yeah, I tell people, like, you just, like, you want to be saying it so much that you're tired of saying it, but you're just scratching the surface. Because, like, as entrepreneurs, like, that's, like, I'm, like, constantly saying the same thing out in, like, my content, on my podcast. I might be tired of hearing it, but you just never know when it really, like, lands with somebody else.
Right.
So that's all great. You sort of touched on something else that I kind of, like, want to, like, I want to, like, go down this avenue. And it's something, like, as soon as I read this on your website, just because you know how doesn't mean you should. And the reason why I laughed at that is because, and this was my theory of why I think this is, like, as leaders, we're getting promoted, and somewhere along, like, but I have to do all this stuff. And then you get promoted, and it's like, I got to do all this new stuff plus all this other stuff. And it's almost like we never learn to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
Because we feel like, and I'm curious what your take is on this, but we think, well, but it's quicker for me just to do it.
Yes, it's the lazy way to lead.
Oh, I love that. The lazy way to lead. Please go on. I'm sure you're like, a few people who are watching this are just like, oh, really? I'm being lazy. Go on, Michael.
Because it actually takes more effort to give people the opportunity to have a new experience, to do something and not be great at it, to actually follow up with them and help if there were mistakes made, and to correct them and everything. That actually takes more effort. So if we just acknowledge that, okay, but where can the benefit be long term? So short term, it may take more time. But long term, you are creating people that you truly are empowering them. So you say you want to, but if you don't delegate, you are not empowering people so that they feel like they have confidence in making other decisions. That means they come back to you less. So if there's anybody out there that is, complains that their team constantly comes to them and asks them, how do I do this? Or here's comes to them with problems but not solutions, you have created that.
Yeah.
And I know.
And
But
not doing it just
because
leads to burnout.
you've taught them that they have to come to you to get the solution. And so that's why I just want to emphasize, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And the other piece that usually gets people delegating is when I say, look, you're robbing people of an opportunity to learn and grow because you keep doing it yourself.
Right. 100%. And they need to be able to learn how to do those things. There was, I got a fun story for you. There was a gentleman that I worked with, and one of his goals was that he wanted to take a vacation. So he was going to take a 2-week vacation. And this is very early on in working with him, like probably our second or third call. And I was like, okay, when's the vacation? He was like, what? I'm like, well, yeah, let's put it on the books. And he was like, I got to do that now. Like I pressured him into it. I'm just like, let's pick the 2 weeks. So he did pick a 2-week period. He picked it about 3 months out. And he was like, okay, so 3 months out. So he knew okay. And he was also, here was another thing that I got him to do, because I think 40 people were reporting to him.
Come on.
Yes. See that.
Cool.
But again, this is the overdoer. Okay, that he gets promoted. He's got more people to report to him. And I told him, there is no way you can even meet a half hour with each of those people and still do your job. And I told him, I said, you need to whittle it down to 5 people. And so by the time we had our next call, he had 5 key people, and then he put all the other 35 people underneath them. He strategically did this. So now he knew that he only had these 5 people to get ready for his vacation. So when his vacation came, I just happened to say, so how are you going to know if this was successful? He said, email. I said, say more. And he said, I'm going to know who needs more training based on who sent me the most emails while I was gone. And it actually wasn't somebody on his team. It was somebody in another department that they just had to keep CCing him on things. He's like, so he goes, that's okay. But to me, leadership is not what you do, it's who you become. And when you're going to take a vacation, nobody should even know that you're on vacation, because your team runs so smoothly. And you're these 5 people that reported directly to him essentially just took over the department so that nobody ever knows that they're missing.
Yeah. Yes. That is a great story. And I know of other CEOs who that's been the big test. That lets them know that they have the right team in place. And some have challenged themselves to go a whole month.
Wow. And so do you challenge those leaders that you're working with to take long vacations and not even check in?
I try to find out where their comfort level is, how do they vacation? Because I would say that there's differences just based off of cultures they've been in the past, their own vacation philosophy. Culturally, too, I've seen some differences. So I try to find out what they normally would do, and then together we come up with what's a way that's a little uncomfortable, but means that you've checked out a little bit more. And I find that is more effective than just saying, no, you can't do, never check, because that's also not necessarily true, depending on what's going on.
So you think it's okay to have some exceptions?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's about growth, right? So if you weren't willing to do this, to check out every other day before, like you'd have to check in every day. What could you do it every 2 or 3 days or something like that? Like what something you've never done before, what would be willing to try?
So almost like what's
Happen.
a baby step instead of like a giant step, like an all or nothing.
Right, right. Because then, if people's backs are against the wall, they're just not going to do it. We know that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
human nature. So,
So this is probably a good place where I was talking about earlier about like we constantly are moving the yardstick, like whatever that, like I believe that we never stop to think like what is success for myself, what is success for this position, what's success for this department. I think we just like, okay, yeah, like success is something, but we keep moving the yardstick. And I know that that's something that you and I have kind of talked about before.
right, right. Yeah, it's really it's the foundation of winning your way because it's about redefining what success means to you, and having life work for you, have it be designed by you. And that success measurement, when people start to really talk about it and we address it, they start to recognize that they've been operating off of somebody else's version of it, definition, including, well, my boss or my company or my job, I have to make sure that I'm working X number of days or I'm delivering this. Otherwise, I will be a failure. And we really start to take some steps back and go, what part of that is true, which by the way is very little, if nothing, and what part of that is just a story you've been telling yourself because you've been watching what else has been going around you. You're a product of your environment, or maybe it's what you had to do in the past in order to have your own version of success, but that doesn't work for you anymore. And you just haven't been willing to adjust it. Like there's lots of factors in that, right? But it also is very fertile ground to re-examine and ask yourself, if I was going to think that I actually was successful, what would that look like? And how close is that to the way that I'm operating right now?
And I think a lot of us don't ever even think about that. We don't even answer that question for ourselves. Like, what does success even look like in my own life? Like, even outside of my leadership role, outside of my job, outside of like my personal business, like what does being successful at the gym look like? In a relationship look like? You're right. Like too many times we just like, well, when I get there, I'm going to recognize it. So
Yes.
until then, and like we just like I said, we never define it. We never decide on what it can be for ourselves right here, right now, because it definitely changes through life.
It does. It changes, every couple months even. Um,
Mhm.
or maybe there's something that's going on. Let's say you're working on a really big project at work, or there's just a lot of going on in your family, but there's something that's going to require a different approach for a period of time. Redefine what success looks like for you then. That might just be like accomplishing one thing in the course of the day. It might be making sure that you walk around the block every single day. Like something, and do not make it insignificant to you. Like that is winning. If you define like this is what I can do right now, that's you winning. And
And
be
then,
able to do it and change it later.
yeah, and we have to cheer the little things too. So to be able, like, at the end of the day, or like when you were able to check that box off, like, here's what I did do, like, really be able to celebrate that you did it, whatever that is. And that was your baby step towards success, where that was your, hey, I'm going to learn to listen a little bit more today. Like I'm working on my communication skills. I'm working on my storytelling. I'm,
Right.
like in check, like I did it. I did it.
Right.
Oh, like be proud of yourself. I love saying that to my clients. How proud are you of whatever that is?
Yes. I am such a proponent of celebrating the wins. I just, and we know from coaching, Laurie-Ann, right, is like there's actually a scientific reason to celebrate. It logs that memory into the brain. It tells you that you know that you can do this at this level, and it helps you build on and gains momentum so that you can reach new levels, of whatever it is that you want to accomplish in life. But it's important. If you don't stop down and acknowledge the progress along the way, you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
Great. I love that. So really defining what success is part of the winning your way. And this was part of the reason why I wanted to have Michael on, was to talk about this winning your way, because it really is. It's so unique to every single person, every single one of us. We really need to stop and think about what would winning today, this week, this month be, this project, this launch, if you happen to be an entrepreneur, what is winning? So really being able to clearly define it. So I know that's that's one of the steps that's in winning your way. What's the next one after we've all kind of decided on what winning is? What's the next step?
Yeah, winning your way is a framework. It is customized for each person, right? But it gives you a pathway to follow. And that first part in helping you really redefine what success looks like is to both brain set and reframe. So brain setting is really like figuring out what is that goal that you are seeking. What's that outcome that you want in your life? And then really asking yourself, what is the identity that you would need to have in order to get that outcome? Because if you were the type of person that had that outcome, you'd already have it, right? So there's something that is getting in the way, and a lot of that is people can't see themselves as the type of person who works out 5 times a week, who is a multimillionaire or a multi-million-dollar salesperson, and so you have to connect to that outcome you want. When there's a disconnect, it isn't very satisfying, it gets frustrating, all of those types of things. So all of this, this pathway is what helps that transformation so that you are winning your way. You have to reframe the way that you talk to yourself. I'll just keep going, right? There has to be some commitment. You just have to decide at some point that this is the life that you want. You are going to figure out a way to, accomplish that revenue goal, or to have the life be in a way that's more joyful and fulfilling. And you start taking actions, and then along the way you have to make some adjustments, right? Like there are behavior shifts. Hate to break it to you, but when you want a different outcome, winning your way, there are going to have to be some behavioral adjustments.
Okay, I kind of like that pit stop, the adjustment pit stop, along this pathway, because I know, for myself, that could be hard. Oh my God, I didn't do things perfectly. I'm thinking back to the person who I was, just a few years ago, where I was so hard on myself, and being so hard on myself. If I didn't, if I the be, do, have, if I wasn't being that person, which was oh, see, and then it's that bad self-talk, or that negative self-talk. And then it's well, I'll just start again tomorrow. And it's but girl, it's only 9:30 in the morning. I still got plenty of time to try again.
Yes, and that reframing is so important. It's just learning those thought patterns that you can initiate and interrupt those limiting beliefs, those limiting stories, and get back on track faster, because we're all magnificent at derailing our own successes. I mean, we do get in our own way, right? And hey, winning your way came from, I'm sharing with you what's worked for me. Okay. I've learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. And So I think I can relate to where, a lot of people are. And that adjustment piece is, I love what you're saying, that pit stop, Laurie-Ann, because that really is, it gives you an opportunity to pause and reassess, because then you're really going to be in alignment. You get your thoughts and your actions aligned with the outcome that you really want. That allows you to accelerate your results. All of that is you defining, how you want to win your way.
And when we're just starting out on this, like there is probably, like I'm thinking of like my clients, and they're like when they're learning a new habit, sometimes, yep, we got to like pull into that pit stop again and just like, all right, how is it that I'm talking to myself? How do I want to talk to myself? Remind myself of what the goal is, what the definition of winning my way is, winning the day, winning the week,
Win the hour. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes that is the kind of day you're having, and it's okay.
I have to tell you this. I literally like, 'cause I love to make lists, and it will say like whatever the date is, today's Thursday. So it does say like, to win today, I'm going to, and I look at, and I really like, here's like the few things. I don't try to add a ton of things, but like, here are the things that I'm going to feel like I won the day.
Yes.
And then usually it's like a dot, 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 to like a below the line. And like, these are bonus points.
Oh,
Because
okay.
like sometimes you just have that extra bout of energy, or everything just is in alignment. And it's like, it's just easy to finish accomplishing a few more things. But
Momentum behind you.
yeah, but I feel like while we're learning these new habits, these new way to think, it's like, it's constantly like, I got to adjust. I got to almost like remind myself, am I talking to myself? Am I saying the things? Am I acting in alignment with the person that I want to be?
Right. And if not, what do I want to shift?
Adjusting time.
Yes. And hey, winning your way is with a why, because it's all about you, right? It's what you decide is
Thank
success.
you. Yeah.
You
So
decide are those next steps. What
yeah.
you decide you're going to adjust.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I'm sure anybody who saw the like the graphic and the post for this was like, why is it WY? And thinking that maybe it had something to do with somebody's last name, but it didn't, because it's about you.
It is. It's all about you. And it isn't about somebody else's last name, but it is about my middle name.
Thank you.
Win with a Y. And I love to win, and I have my entire life. And that was kind of like, but what allowed me to win? What are those milestones in my life that I've had that people told me I couldn't hit, or it wasn't, going to be worth it, or I questioned whether I really had it in me to get to that end goal. And so all of that informed winning your way.
Love that. I'm just looking over at the comments. Gail asked a question. Well, I'm not. I think it's a question. How do you know when you get there? How do you know when you get there?
Yeah, that's it. It's a great question, because the easy, like the first response would be, well, some people are very, very goal oriented, and it's going to be concrete and sequential, right? And it'll be like, oh, I'll know I get there when, the numbers add up. Again, I work a lot with sales teams and sales leaders. But outside of that, I'd say you know that you got there when you're feeling good. Are you recognizing that you have more joy in your life? Are you feeling like you're spending more time working on the things that you want to be? Are you proud of yourself because you made time for you in there, so that in the course of the day or a week, so that you had the energy to tackle the big projects, the problem solving, to make the extra calls, whatever the case is. And when you can learn to be more kind to yourself, I think that's when you really start to recognize that you're there.
Yeah, and I do think like when we've taken the time to decide on what our definition of success is, that's also like you decide on what it's going to look like. And maybe like you'll know that you got there because, oh wow, I didn't have to go into the adjustment pit stop, today because
Right.
like the way that I'm thinking about myself, the way that I'm acting, like my new communication style, like everything is working like more of a habit than anything else.
Yes, yes. And I want to, I mean, you're highlighting the word decide, and there was a recognition that I had that really anything that I have accomplished in my life, personally, professionally, is because there came a day when I just decided that's the way it was going to be. I was going to get there, even if the timeline wasn't exactly what I originally thought. Most people spend a lot of time indecisive. They
Yeah.
they're thinking about it. They think maybe they should. Should's an indicator that it's not your idea, right? That it really isn't your version of winning. So I really work with people a lot on getting to decision. And without fail, once you decide, that's when everything starts falling into place.
Could you see the shift in her energy right then and there? Like because it's so true. I mean, I even look back on my past and even like some of my clients that I'm working with that, it does come down to a decision. And then like not redeciding every single day,
Yes.
what that goal is like. Just, hey, I already made the decision and I'm going all in on it. And you just like I just keep going. I
Right.
go until like this becomes like something that I achieve. We gain the numbers. The profitability, like whatever it is for any of us, like just to be able to like sit down and make a decision. Because here's the thing: whatever you decide, it's not wrong. It
Right.
is not a wrong decision.
Right.
I think
Like take time, right? You don't have to like just have a knee jerk reaction to it, but you're people not when you don't decide, you are actually wasting an incredible amount of energy. Once you decide, your energy is redirected toward that taking action and actually making progress and gaining momentum. So it's like you've redistributed it. And you're like,
Mhm.
why does it feel so much easier? And that's why.
Because yeah, just making decisions and then going all in on it and just like and then it just becomes like, hey, like I've this is part of winning your way is making a decision about what success looks like, what leading your team looks like, what your business is all about. It's just it really does. It starts with a decision that you're the sort of person who can make a decision and like that's it. Like I'm all in on it.
Yes.
Like I
Yes.
never halfway go to the gym and say, okay, I changed my mind. It's like I've just made the decision. And like I've had so many lessons just from working out in my, and going to the gym and like how it became a habit. It's like there's just so many stories that I have on that and analogies that I'm able to use. That and I know that you're a sports fan, so you've got lots of sports analogies also.
Yes. And I've gone this far without using any.
I mean, that's an accomplishment, right? Do you want to throw one in?
Well, I want to bring up this up because I recently heard heard this tale from a coach who works with a lot of NBA players. He was a coach and now he's a consultant, and he was talking about what one of the things that makes players great, like the Kobe Bryants, the Steph Currys of the world, and I think it's so applicable to life and in business in particular. And that's like he said, the best of the best, they will take the shot, and they may miss the first seven shots, but shoot the eighth shot like they had just made the last seven, right? And so often we start out and we do things, right, and we don't have success. It doesn't work out. We get frustrated and we quit, or we spend a lot of time thinking about all those missed opportunities in life or on the mistakes that were made, and people just live in the past. And if you can take that approach, and I shared this with clients recently because I think it's just so appropriate. No, doesn't matter what you just did. You are now moving forward as if it's going to work, as if you are going to succeed at it, as if it were going to be easy. And you just focus on the moment. And I think we can apply that in so many different ways.
Take the shot. Like, this next shot is going to be the evidence of the future. Like so that the ninth one, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that eighth one was easy because you took it. And there's always the next one. And I've always had that. People have asked me, what was your best speech? And I've always said, my next one. My next one's going to be my best one, because I'm always taking stuff from my past to make the next one better. But I know that that's not the exact same thing of what you just said, but it's I guess what I'm saying to everybody is try again. Just try. What do you have to lose?
Right. And disregard what happened before.
Yes.
And just focus on step up, take the shot like you've made all the other ones.
I love that. Take the shot like you made all the other ones. I think that's beautiful, and that's absolutely perfect place for us to end right here. But Michael, before we do, because I just love that, I don't think it can get any better than what we've. This has been a great conversation. We talked about a lot of things here today, so thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. But before we go, would you please share with people where they can find you, where they can learn more, and hear more from you also?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Laurie-Ann. This has been a lot of fun. For sure, follow me on LinkedIn, where you're seeing us. So I'm Michael Kithcart, and then my website is michaelwkithcart.com, and there's lots of information there, resources, podcasts, blogs, and ways to just connect with me. So I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, share about your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Champions of Risk.
Champions of Risk.
We're all risk takers.
That's right. We are all risk takers. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining who watched us live. And if you're watching the replay, hit replay. I will be back by to answer any questions. Michael might even be back to answer any questions that you might have. But till next week, when Rigo will be back from vacation, and I'm sure we'll hear all about his vacation. I want you all to have a fabulous week. See you next time.